Everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS. So this is the final two videos, small videos that I'll post. What happens? See, I have done videos before also. Okay, notes, everything is available on the Telegram channel as well. So basically, we have covered everything comprehensively. Now, because of being comprehensive that every institute does, sometimes students tend to miss the most important ones also. So that's why this just two videos, small videos, I will post here in which we'll talk about only the most probable according to me. This is not comprehensive, this is the most important. So if you are resting, if you are doing something, you can just watch this videos so that you are sure that if question comes from this which has very high probability of being asked, you are able to do that. Okay, and you don't get like washed away with all the content that you have already done. So that's the purpose. Now let's see. So first is biotech and health. Now here you have NextCar 19. Okay, what is this? So NextCar 19 is a CAR T cell therapy that has been indigenously developed. First indigenously developed CAR T cell therapy. I hope you know what is CAR T cell therapy. Correct. So basically, what you do, chimeric antigenic receptors. So T cells, you make your T cells super T cells or more powerful so that they can identify cancers. This is specially used in blood cancers. So it will, so you take the T cells out and then you do some, add some chimeric antigenic receptor on it, CARs on it. Now this CAR T cell can identify the cancer cells inside your body and kill it. This is CAR T cell therapy. Now, in that, next CAR 19 is the one that has been first time indigenously developed in India. Who developed this? ImmunoAct, IIT Bombay, and Tata Memorial Hospital. These three in combination have developed this. Now, this 19 is actually about the CD19 that is used to identify that particular kind of cancer. That's why it is called 19. Then next, FOXP3 gene or FOXP9 gene. This got Nobel Prize this year. Why it got Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine? Now, understand. So they have found this gene. They were doing some experiment in the mice, and then they found that this is like the master switch for T-Rex. So there is a special kind of T cells. T cells, as you know, two, three T cells you must know, helper T cells that helps the B cell to make antibodies. Then cytotoxic T cells which kill the infected T cells. Then the third that you must remember is Tregs or regulatory T cells. This does what? So your immune system tends to overreact. So it controls or regulate your immune response. So these are Tregs. Now they have found that there is a particular gene that switches on or off these Treg Tregs, okay, and that is called FOXP3 gene. For this, only for this connection that they have found, they have got the Nobel Prize. Then next, BIRSA 101, very important again. So this is India's first CRISPR-based therapy to treat sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia, always in news, very important disease. What happens? The red blood cells become sickle shaped like this. Okay, so the person who is having this, they start having RBCs like this. Now, because of this, what will happen? If they have RBCs like this, they won't be having hemoglobin to properly bind the oxygen. Now, if they are not able to bind oxygen properly, what they will start having? They will start having issues with different parts of their body because their red blood cells are not carrying enough oxygen. Can you think this is such a big issue? Then other thing what it does, because of the shape, it tends to collect at some parts of the veins and it will create blockages, eventually leading to organ failure. Also, one more thing, that this shaped RBC is not that stable, so they tend to break out also easily. Okay, so these are the issues. This is called sickle cell anemia, most importantly found in certain tribal groups in India. Okay, very endemic to them. Now, this is also a recessive disorder. So if the mother and father, if any of them is completely healthy, the child cannot get the disease. Then, so what they have developed, they have developed the first CRISPR-based therapy to treat this sickle cell anemia, and they have named it BIRSA 101. Why BIRSA 101? BIRSA Mundaji is one of the most important tribal leaders, and this is a disease affecting tribal people. So that's why called BIRSA 101. This is how you can very easily remember it. Now, who developed this? So this was developed by CSIR Integrative Biology Center. Okay, and now it has been given to serum for mass production. This will help us get the treatment at very lower cost than what is being offered by other imported versions of this treatment. Then this is again important, indigenous TNPB based gene editing technology. So you understand CRISPR Cas9, that works on Cas9 protein, correct? CRISPR is the system we get from bacteria. We copy from bacteria, then we make it in labs, correct? All that you know. Now, this is what? This is indigenous TNPB based gene editing technology. Now, this uses transposons. Transposons are what? They are usually based on jumping genes. See, jumping genes are what? From one part of your DNA, they will first cut themselves, then they will come out, then they can make cut another in another part of your DNA and get inserted there. This is what they can do. Sometimes they can even go in front of certain parts of your genes and then get attached there to silence those part of the genes. So both of these are possible. Now, in this, they are using these transposons. So they are not allowing it, because originally also it goes around in your DNA. So they are using these kind of transposons to do gene editing because it has the capability of cutting the genes. So similarly, there you had Cas9 as molecular scissor. Here you are using transposons or jumping genes as the molecular scissors. Then this is by ICAR CRRI. See, ICAR Institute for ICAR CRRI. Okay. Now, please remember, this is Rice Research Institute that has developed this. Okay, it might seem wrong to you, but this has been developed by Central Rice Research Institute. Then you come to CRISPR Cas9. Again, very important. So basically, this D stands for dead Cas9. Now, Cas9 was the protein that was cutting it, correct? Now, if you just take its ability of cutting down a particular part of DNA, now what remains? CRISPR is still there, correct? Cas9 will still be able to find the place, correct? So it will still be able to locate a place, but it won't make a cut. That is called CRISPR Cas9, dead Cas9. So it will bind to a specific part. This is what you want. Now, it won't make the cut. Now, this can be used to put some gene that promote certain part of the DNA or to repress certain part of the DNA. So this can be a very good technology for gene silencing or promoting something. Understood? So CRISPR Cas9, there is CRISPR Cas12, there are many other systems. Those are fine. CRISPR Cas9, you remember, this is dead. It will not make the cuts. Fine. Then next, malaria. All over in news. In very short, this is National Framework for Malaria Elimination by 2030. It started in 2016. So this is the time frame. Now, recently, Home Minister also gave a statement that we are very close to eliminating malaria from India. Okay, there is an invasive variety of mosquito that has come. That is a challenge. Otherwise, we are on course. Then Ad falsivax. Please remember this. This is an indigenous chimeric multi-stage vaccine. Now, understand each word. Chimeric means what? They have taken DNA or genetic material from different parts. Then multi-stage, because it attacks the mosquito or attacks the malarial plasmodium in both the stages. So basically, it protects the person who is given this vaccine, and it also prevents the community spread. Okay, so both work is done by it. Then next, dengue. Two vaccines, Qdenga and dengue all. Now, Qdenga is what? This is an international vaccine. It has 2 doses. This has approved worldwide. Okay, now we have also started importing it. Okay, in some quantity. Then dengue all is an indigenous single shot vaccine that is still at trials right now. Now, please remember the name also. This is being made by Panacea Biotech, New Delhi. From New Delhi, you can remember at least that New Delhi famous for dengue, and from that you can eliminate the southern institutes like Bharat Biotech and all that. Correct? Serum Institute. All those are southern. Dengue is mostly in Delhi, North India, and that's why Panacea Biotech is making this. Then both of these are tetravalent in nature. and they are LAV, that is live attenuated vaccine. That means what they are doing, they are not killing the pathogen, they are taking very weakened version of the pathogen. Both are tetravalent, so they are working for against dengue virus 1 to 4, both of them. Then next is Servavac. Okay, what is this? So from this Servavac, you can first derive one word that is called cervix. Correct? Now, this is Servavac. What is this? So basically, this is from Servavac. You can understand this must be related to cervix. Correct? Cervix is found in women only. Correct? So basically, this is mainly for cervical cancer. But please understand this. So this actually protects you from human papilloma virus. Now, human papilloma virus, it causes cervical cancer in females only. Why? Because men don't have cervix. That is fine. But there are many different types of cancers that HPV can cause in males as well as females. And from most of them, for example, anal cancer is found in males. Not that it is not found in female at all, but this you remember that cervical cancer only in women, and there are other vaginal, vulva based cancer, all those are present in female, and then some in males also. So basically, this provides protection against different cancers, different for male and female. Then this is India's first indigenous quadrivalent HPV vaccine by Serum Institute. Please remember Serum Institute, HPV vaccine, quadrivalent is fine. And this is India's first indigenous vaccine against this. This is Sarvavac. Then Biopharma Shakti, very important mission that was introduced by the government. Now, this was allocated in the union budget 10,000 crores. Now, understand what we are focusing on here. The main focus is to see India is the generic drug supplier of the world, but now the world is shifting towards new ways of medicines that are not just chemical compositions like paracetamol, like amoxicillin. These are just chemical compositions. Now we are shifting to biologics and biosimilars. What are biologics? These are the system of medicine that involves biological organisms directly, okay, or biological molecules. For example, you might have heard of monoclonal antibodies, then even vaccines, correct? Then you must have heard of peptides, correct? Glycogen like peptides. We did this when we were doing weight loss drugs. So all those are examples of biologics. Understood? So we are now focusing on through this scheme to make more of biologics because the world will move towards that. Understood? And if we don't, then we won't be the supplier to the world anymore. So biologics is this that is made from these biological molecules or organisms. Biosimilar is just like for a drug, for a chemical drug you have a generic version, correct? Similarly, for a biologic you have a biosimilar, correct? Just so India is focusing on biosimilar, that is once biologic has been developed by some other country, we'll also try to develop it, then we will make many copies of it, correct? That is biosimilars. Now there is Cerebu. Okay, Cerebu, though it should not be asked, but I think this can be a swing question that they can give, because this is an indigenous handheld device to rapidly detect brain injury by ICMR and NMIHANS. So this is mental health institution based in Bangalore, and this is ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research. Now they have developed a device just like in COVID you have now, which handheld device which could measure your temperature. Similar device. Now this can detect brain injury immediately. Otherwise, what happens if there is brain injury? There is internal bleeding and all, and before you get to know that this might be brain injury, the person is just completely in a state where it becomes very difficult for doctors to revive, because the surgery and because even getting that there might be some issue with the brain takes a lot of time. So this is one device they have developed. Then space, only main things. Nisar you must know. NASA, ISRO, synthetic aperture radar also you must understand, correct? That using a small, for example, lens, you are creating an illusion of a much bigger aperture. Then NASA is giving the L band, correct? ISRO is giving the S band. So it has two bands, SARs or radars. L band is by NASA, S band is by ISRO. Now, NASA is also giving that antenna, that 12-meter antenna, okay, big antenna that will open, that will send and receive the signals back. Of course, this is both active radars. Then, what NASA is giving? NASA is giving the spacecraft that will be going around, and also this GSLV F-16 that is being used to launch it. This is the launch vehicle. Okay, this is actually one version of GSLV MK2. This is not LVM3. Please remember. Okay, then POM mission. This is the reason why most people got the question that came in 2025 incorrect. That is SpaceX. Now understand what is this. This is PSLV orbital experimental module. So once a mission has been launched, then what NASA was, what ISRO was testing was the fourth stage of PSLV. What we can do, we can, now that is present in the space, it is orbiting. Now that we can use as a laboratory to do certain observations, so that that part does not become space junk but is of some use for us. Correct. Now in SpaceX mission, after the main SpaceX mission was done, this was a separate thing that they had planned to do. Now because they were always given together, because it is part of the same launch, correct, so it was always given together, and that's why most people in that question saying that which of the following involves microgravity research, when they found on the internet, they will find that SpaceX and POM4 was given together. And that's why they got confused. POM is a different mission. Once the main mission is completed, this is another thing that ISRO tries to do now. Okay, not for every mission, but they have done for many. Now they are planning POM5 also. Then you have Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan, 400 kilometer, 3 days, 3 astronauts back in Indian waters. Correct. This is the main core objective. Then there are different tests that it is requiring. IEDT, correct, integrated air drop test, correct. So they are taking it to much height and then leaving it so that it can launch it, parachute this capsule and then come back down to the waters, correct. Then test vehicle missions. Why? Because they have to be human rated LMV3, correct. So human rated LVM3, correct. This is what you want. So they are doing constant test vehicle missions. Then G1, G2, G3, all these are what? These are unmanned missions that we will send first. Now, in these unmanned mission, eventually who will go? Vyom Mitra. Vyom Mitra was what? This was a female robot that could sense sense environmental changes, even minute environmental changes. Then Artemis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Correct. This is by NASA, correct. This is again NASA going to space. Now Artemis 2 was recently completed, in which what it did, it had people and it just went in orbit, went around in orbit around the moon and then came back to Earth, correct. So this just orbit and back. Now in Artemis 3 they will try to land a, so this will also be unmanned, this will be unmanned, but they will try to land a rover in this. Then Artemis 4 is the first time that a human lands again. Why I'm saying again? Because in Apollo mission in the 1969 to 72, they have already landed people on moon. Neil Armstrong, correct? Then fifth will be about sustained presence and infra. Okay, some infrastructure development they will start with 4 also, correct, because to have a permanent base on the moon. Then next, India has signed, very important, all 5 major space treaties of the UN. All we have signed. Now difference understand. So we have signed and ratified 4 of them. Okay, outer space treaty. Okay, then all these different treaty, liability convention, registration convention. Okay, all these we have signed and ratified both, but there is moon agreement 1979 that we have signed but we never ratified it. Then there is Artemis Accords. Sometimes people mix this in questions. So Artemis Accords is just something that we signed. This is non-binding. So we have signed and that is enough. There is no need of ratification. Correct. Then last is we are the founding member of UN Corpus. What is this? This is Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. We are a founding member here. Fine. Then next, observatories. Okay, though I have covered many observatories in the marathon class also, these are the most important and please don't forget them. So there is Henley Dark Sky Reserve and Observatory in Ladakh. Okay, there is Hope Mission also, where they are trying to, which they are trying to do in Ladakh. That is to understand how life will be on the Martian surface, lunar surface, all that. Okay, then Kodaikanal Solar Observatory was in news. Then Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile. Chile also has Atlas and ALMA. And don't be confused that when it says that it is by NASA. Don't think that how can NASA have it in Chile. They have it. Okay, they have observatories. There are observatories by NASA and sometimes by collaboration also in Chile. Okay, then Chandra X-ray Observatory. I am waiting for this question to be asked. Okay, this is a very trick question. This is by NASA. This is a space observatory. This is in a highly elliptical orbit. Now, highly elliptical orbit means what? So basically, this is Earth. Then it goes in like this, where perigee is like 14,000 kilometer and the apogee is like 1.5 lakh sort of kilometer. Okay, so that far it goes in a highly elliptical orbit so as to avoid radiations. Now, why it is important? So Chandra, this guy, Chandrasekhar, was a very important scientist that dealt with astrophysics a lot. Okay, he was Indian origin person. Okay, but he was an American citizen. So that's why on his name they have observatory. They have a lot of things on his name. Please remember it. So this is by NASA. Then Astrosat is in low Earth orbit by ISRO. This is our first like completely exploratory mission. Okay, then you have atomic clocks, which recently broke in Navik systems. Correct. Only 3 Navik are fully functional now. Okay. So only 3 are fully working now. That is why what you need, we need more to replace it. Now we have started sending also. So cesium and rubidium are the 2 main elements which are used to make atomic clocks. Atomic clocks, if you remember, it comes from the fundamental property of these elements. That is how many cycles does cesium and rubidium. For example, let's say rubidium. How many cycles from here to here it completes within 1 second. So it comes out like, let's say 1, 5, 6, 7, 2, 8, 9, 8 cycles. I'm just writing a random figure. This is not correct. This is equivalent to 1 second. Now, if you can ensure these many exact cycles, then you can ensure 1 second to this much accuracy. Correct? Even if it is 1 cycle less, then it is not 1 second. So your 1 second becomes very, very accurate. This is atomic clocks. And it comes from the fundamental property of the element itself. So usually cesium and rubidium are used. Now, the ones that got defunct now or useless now were the Swiss imported ones. Now we are sending the indigenous replacement of rubidium atomic clocks. Now, next is orbital data centers all over in news. This I am actually expecting also. Project Suncatcher by Google. Core theme is simple. They are sending satellites, spacecrafts that will orbit around the Earth, and there they will have data centers. Now, what advantages you get? So basically, all the data that goes from here, now data centers there will be much more energy efficient in the way that they can get solar energy all the time. So you don't have to burn coal, all that you do here, correct? Because here solar energy is not available all the time. Now they orbit in such a way that solar energy is available to them almost all the time, correct? So that way they work, and that way energy from Earth won't be required. That is why they're sending data centers to space. Okay, they're testing this right now at testing phase. Now, so it is going around like this. Now the data that goes from Earth to these data centers, most of it using artificial intelligence, they will analyze then and there. That is called edge computing, that they will be processing it then and there, and then only the useful data will be relayed back to Earth, to the ground station, because most other things have to be done on the ground stations. Understood? Then this is just last week news. Last week news. Pathfinder. This is India's first orbital data center. This is by Pixel and Sarvam AI. Sarvam AI, we'll see again also. You might have heard of in India AI Impact Summit, correct? So this is Pathfinder. Just a week ago it has come. Then universe. Some very basic things. Okay. Alaknanda galaxy. This is Indian scientists have found this using James Webb Space Telescope data. James Webb Space Telescope data is available to everyone freely, and Indian scientists used it to find Alaknanda galaxy. This is the second farthest galaxy that we know. Okay, so you might be thinking that how they gave this name. So there is Milky Way galaxy in which we are living. It is called Akash Ganga. We call it Akash Ganga. Okay, so this they have named similarly Alaknanda. Understood? Then superkilonova was in news. So this is when two neutron stars collide and two neutron stars are colliding into each other. Now because of that, a lot of heavy elements like gold, platinum, all these are released. This is superkilonova, huge explosion caused by merger of two neutron stars. Then these four terms, there is solar flare. What is solar flare? So what happens? The magnetic fields around the sun, they tend to snap and then they rejoin. So because of that, energy is released. That is called solar flare. Then you come to coronal mass ejection. So what happens? Sometimes the energy release is so huge that huge clouds of plasma. Plasma is ionized gases. Correct. So plasma is so huge clouds of ionized gases is made. This is called coronal mass ejection. Then next you come to solar wind. So solar wind is very simple, constant energy stream from the sun. So from sun constantly energy stream is being sent. That is solar wind. Now understand solar storm. So what happens when solar wind or coronal mass ejections? Now when these interact with Earth's magnetic field, then they create solar storm. Solar storm is the reason for creation of what? For creation of auroras. Correct? Remember this. Then last is these two. So you come to here, which is Juno. Juno is what? This is Jiangmen Underground Neutrino Observatory in China. Correct? Now, what is this? So this actually comes in three flavors. Okay. Now understand first these three things. So it is almost of zero mass, very, very low mass, neutrino as a particle. There is no charge in them and they have very weak interaction, only weak nuclear forces and gravitational force. These are the only two things they work on. Now, so neutrinos, now you can understand if it does not have mass, it does not have charge, it is not interacting, then it will be very difficult to find them. Correct? In fact, through this thumb of mine, many billions of neutrinos must be passing right now, but they are not being detected. So these are certain particles like this. Now, it is almost zero mass. They are not massless. Please remember this. Now, so you need very underground systems in which you can somehow observe neutrinos. Correct? This is what they have developed in China. Okay. Now they come in three flavors. So basically, there are three variants you can understand of neutrinos in which one variant keeps changing to the other and then to the other, and they keep on moving from one flavor to other. This is just a way of saying different variants. Then in India, we planned Indian Neutrino Observatory in Theni, Tamil Nadu, but unfortunately nothing could progress here and it is still just a name of the mission. Nothing on ground has been done properly till now. Then there is LIGO, LISA. What are these two? LIGO and LISA. These are both gravitational waves of observatories. Now, what is LIGO? LIGO is underground detector on Earth, underground detector. Okay, they have two streams like this, then they send waves. Okay, a few kilometers long, like two pipes in perpendicular, and then they try to see if there are some changes in the interaction. Lisa is space based. Now because it is space based, it can even identify low frequency gravitational waves. Understood? So in space they keep three spacecrafts and then they send lasers to each other and then they try to see if there is some change. Okay, then okay, so this is it. Now there is one more term that you can know. It's called gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing comes from Einstein's general theory of relativity, which tells that light will also bend. That light will also bend with the bending of the space time. So if the space time fabric bends, then light will also bend with it. Okay. Now these are usually much better seen when there is some black hole merger or anything like any big event like this. Otherwise, we are not able to observe gravitational waves. This is it that we had to cover. In very short, I have covered most important topics. One more part will be there. In that, we will cover energy and ICT and emerging tech. Those three things mainly. This is it for the video. Thank you.